Okay, we're back home and the vibes are high. What's happening? Hope everybody's off to a great start on this Tuesday morning. We are happy to have you guys here for the next 3 hours. Lucas is back there. Is Robert back there? I don't know. I heard him screaming into the microphone on my way into work. Do you hear this 40 bowls in 14 days bit they got going on?
Yes.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, we'll steal it at some point.
That's Sports Talk Radio. Everything's stolen to a degree. We are happy to have you in at any point throughout the course of the show. 615-737-1045 is the number. It's a short week for the Titans, so they will have media availability and a bit of a walkthrough situation this afternoon. You'll hear from Mike Vrabel. Instead of a Wednesday, you'll do it on a Tuesday. Everything just a little condensed ahead of this Christmas Eve game. And it's a big one. Here's the thing, though. What happened this past weekend in LA with Ryan Tannehill, not just the loss, but the injury that took Tannehill out for a couple of series in this game, a re-injury of the right ankle, did we ever get confirmation of a high ankle sprain? Or is it just that weird Schefter tweet where he said it is believed to be a high ankle sprain without actually reporting anything?
Yeah, because the injury report always just said ankle, and Tannehill was it's an ankle sprain.
Yeah, but I don't know if anybody, like Schefter had a tweet where he wasn't really reporting. He was just kind of hinting at a high ankle sprain, except he didn't put it definitively. So I don't know that we ever got confirmation. Either way, it's an ankle issue. Been bothering him all year long. Looked like it was getting better, and then it got crunched. And what was being reported this morning when I turned on NFL Network by Tom Pelissero is that at this point, with the significance of the re-injury, Tannehill's status for Saturday is now in question. Here was Tom Pelissero talking about a variety of different quarterback injuries.
Well, Jamie, Jalen Hurts' status is in doubt for Saturday's game against the Cowboys after he suffered a sprained throwing shoulder in the third quarter this past weekend. My understanding is this is not a long-term injury for Jalen Hurts. He does not need surgery. If he had to play this week, if this were the Super Bowl, he could probably find a way to play. But what he really needs right now is rest. You're talking about an MVP candidate. The Eagles' focus here is making sure Jalen Hurts is fully healthy when he gets back on the field, which means quite likely it's going to be Gardner Minshew time on Christmas Eve against Dallas. Elsewhere, Ryan Tannehill's status for their game coming up this weekend also in doubt after he re-injured his right ankle this past weekend against the Chargers. Now, Tannehill gutted it out, got carted off, came back into the game. He is as tough as they come. If there's any way Tannehill can be on the field, he's going to be out there. But my understanding is this is an uphill battle for Ryan Tannehill to be ready this weekend, which means rookie Malik Willis, who got his first NFL start a couple months ago against the Texans, could end up starting against Houston again. Finally, in New York with the Jets, Coach Robert Saleh said he's not ready to name a starting quarterback for their game on Thursday against the Jaguars. This as Mike White continues to recover from what our Ian Rappaport reported on Sunday is 3 fractured ribs. Saleh said that there are more scans planned for White this week, but he does have further hurdles that he would need to clear to gain medical clearance. So tough to do that on a short week. Certainly seems likely it will be Zach Wilson once again against Jacksonville.
I'm glad you left that last part in there, too, because that Jags-Jets game obviously matters for this team.
And short week for them, too.
The Thursday night game. So they're without starting left tackle Cam Robinson. Jacksonville is. It looks like it may be for the remainder of the season at this point based on the reporting yesterday. And now Mike White, the Jets, who are now 7-7, the same as the Titans. It took a different trajectory for them to get to 7-7, and they've had a lot of different situations at quarterback this year. But even still, critical game. So, possibly, and at this point, it's too early to say, they'll have an injury report later today. They typically don't on Tuesdays, but again, it's a short week. So, with 5 days to go in this game, is Ryan Tannehill going to be good enough to play it out, or is it going to be Malik Willis again? Now, we know that they had tremendous success against the Houston Texans with Malik Willis and Derrick Henry. I don't know if it exactly looks like that again because Houston is playing much better football as of late. They took the Chiefs to overtime, same as you. Didn't look the same as you did because there was more scoring by the Texans, and an untimely Davis Mills fumble kind of cost them that game in a big spot. So when Ryan Tannehill left this game for 2 drives and finished the game completing 15 passes, 22 attempts, 165 yards, and the interception. He was sacked 4 times for a loss of 28 yards total. There were some opportunities that he missed. I think Mike Vrabel talked about that. Tannehill talked about that. A couple of things that he didn't see at critical points. There was a situation in the red zone where he took a sack instead of hitting Hassan Haskins in the flat. It was in the second half of the game. I can't remember exactly the down and distance. Either way, there were some miscues by the quarterback, but there's no question that he gives them the best chance to win a football game, right? Even still, that's probably something we should talk about. 615-737-1045. Who gives the Titans the best chance against the Texans on Saturday? Ryan Tannehill, clearly hobbled again, or Malik Willis, whose limitations I think everybody's very aware of at this point, but some complimentary things from the head coach that you're going to hear coming up next. Mike Vrabel talking about Malik Willis, the limited snaps that he got in this game against the Chargers. You'll also hear from Ryan Tannehill on the status of his ankle. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
So, Titans quarterback situation in question ahead of this Texans game. Now, that's not the only one. If you heard that Tom Pelissero clip earlier, you know Jalen Hurts is likely to miss some time, which sucks, by the way. I mean, that just really stinks. Gardner Minshew, I mean, what if Gardner Minshew looks great in the offense? It's not going to start any kind of quarterback controversy or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, how funny would it be if they just don't miss a beat with Gardner Minshew back there and he's just swaggering around because he's still got the mustache, like he's still got the whole thing, right?
No,
Minshew-mania?
he's got a full beard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I saw he had some really nice comments about Mike Leach last week, where he got pretty emotional talking about the opportunity that Leach gave him, and I didn't recognize him. I mean, he's got the full beard going, and it looks pretty good. I'm not going to lie.
What a weird time that was in football history where that guy had this legitimate cult following.
Minshew mania?
They had mustaches in the stands. Like they handed them out before games in Jacksonville.
Buddy, that was happening way before Jacksonville. That was happening in
I know that
Wazoo.
Like he put the mustache on Mike Leach, like the whole thing. But
Minshew mania started pre-Jacksonville.
What a time. Anyway, so Jalen Hurts likely to miss some time. The Jets have just now ruled out Mike White with what is being reported as fractured ribs. So Zach Wilson going to get another start. I made this joke to you at the restaurant the other night, but we talked about Robert Saleh and his defense of Zach Wilson, who did not play very well.
The Potato Bowl defense. May it go down in history.
When you said that to me, like I had a visual of like some like classified file, like that an attorney pulls out as strategy or as like precedents, like they're looking at a case study. The Potato Bowl defense.
Once went 18 for 18 in the Potato Bowl. He's still that guy.
Yeah, he completed 18. He completed 18 passes.
He did complete 18 passes.
He completed, except it was out of 35.
Yeah,
not
he threw
18
35.
Yeah, this is tough.
317 yards for Zach Wilson, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, was sacked 4 times as the Jets lost to the Lions, who have won 6 of 7.
Yeah, no, Lions are like the hottest team in football right now, which, by the way, is great.
They were 1-6.
Yeah.
Now they're 7-7.
It's a different kind of 7-7 than the Titans are, right? Like you're looking at, okay, so who are the 7-7 teams right now in the NFL? Let's pull this up and take a look. We're going to talk about playoff standing and stuff like that.
There's quite a few, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, because everybody was 5-8 for a hot second or 7-6, so now it's turning into full NFL football.
Well,
and I mean, it's exactly the way that they planned it, right? Like these games matter, even though these teams aren't all very good.
We mentioned the Jets, the Jets also 7-7, and after Sunday, the Lions are 7-7, the Titans are 7-7, the Seahawks are 7-7, the Patriots are 7-7, and that's it.
Yeah, the Commanders are 7-6-1 at this point, but I don't know. Those feel like different. Patriots and Titans feel like the same kind of.
The vibes are all over the place on all of those teams. If you take every 7-7 football team, it is a completely different outlook. Because right now in Detroit, it is sunshine and rainbows.
Oh, sure.
After winning 6 of 7, they're healthy. Jamison Williams is playing.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That's
they're
right.
Thriving, baby.
Kneecaps and bacon for breakfast in Detroit, and they've won 6 of 7. Obviously, the mood here has not been good. The Patriots, I can't imagine
Mac Jones is screaming at Matt Patricia.
Yeah, I mean,
there are veins popping out of his neck and his forehead as he berates his offensive coordinator for how terrible their offense is.
And I don't know what the feeling is in Seattle, but I think given what we thought of them before the year, if you told any Seahawks fan that 7-7 would happen, they'd either be thrilled or be pissed that they're not fighting for a number 1 draft pick.
Because they were told. I mean, we all thought that they had the worst quarterback situation in football. I mean, they wrote me off. I didn't write back though. Whole thing, right? Like, Gino's probably going to make $30 million a year next year.
Gino's performance this year has iced over several offseason takes, including mine. I believe I said that.
Did you go after them?
I think I said if Geno Smith and Drew Lock are your options at quarterback, you are tanking, and you can't convince me otherwise, and that has not been the case.
I don't understand why when I have ridiculous opinions or ridiculously wrong opinions in retrospect. You have them literally at your fingertips. And when you have them, it's just you got to retell me how bad your opinion was without us hearing how actually bad it was.
Well, you're just not prepared. That's on you.
That's fair. I'll start coming out. Do you think that would make me come in earlier if I started getting here to cut my own audio to fight you with? Probably
That'd
not.
be great.
Yeah, we'll see. So the quarterback situation, though, as we mentioned, Mike White is out for the Jets. They play the Jags this coming weekend. Obviously a game that matters to the local professional football team, whose quarterback situation is also in question. So let's start with Ryan Tannehill. You heard the reporting from Pelissero, and obviously, it should be understood that he is anything but a certainty this week, especially on a short week. How big one day makes a difference between Saturday and Sunday? I mean, whatever at this point. But it's consequential enough that he may have to miss some additional time. This was Ryan Tannehill in the locker room with us on Sunday after the Chargers loss.
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to be the case, but they did some initial checks and told me it looked okay. It was in my hands and just to see where I was at. So I was in a lot of pain, but was able to kind of get back out there and play.
You think some people were surprised to see you? Like, what did people say when you came back out? Most of the time, guys get carted off. You don't see them again.
Yeah, I think I had a lot of support from the guys on the sideline and in the huddle, which felt great. But ultimately, we wanted to go win that game.
Obviously, you've been managing it for quite some time at this point. Was there anything different that, having that injury kind of pop back up that you had to do in this game, or has it just basically been the same thing?
No, I mean, it's a lot different. You're not able to move the same way, obviously, but the past few weeks had been slow improvements, but improvements, and this one definitely hurt.
So that's Ryan Tannehill talking about the ankle about 25 minutes after the game itself. Again, 15 of 22, 165, no touchdowns, and an interception. He had a couple of chunk completions, but was sacked 4 times in that loss to L.A. So, in his absence, Malik Willis, he attempted 4 passes, which, he went an entire game and an overtime period attempting over only 6 and 5 passes in the 2 games that he played. So, 4 attempts in 2 series. Okay. There's some opportunity there. He used 3 of 4 for 20 yards. The longest pass that he threw was 7 yards. I believe that was to Chris Conley for a first down on a 3rd down conversion. So Mike Vrabel was asked about Malik Willis specifically and what he saw from them or from the backup quarterback in limited action, given that he's had some playing experience now and understands a little bit better the timing and rhythm that he needs.
That's right. Yeah, if Ryan's healthy and Ryan can play, Ryan would be our quarterback. But, again, I think Malik has put a lot of work into the show team and trying to play the game and command the huddle and do all the things that we've talked about, how he needs to try to develop during the week when there aren't a lot of reps. And he did that. And, Pat's watching all those reps with him. And, we talked about not making bad decisions in the jog through just because it's a jog through or, he tried to break contain just to, give the guys a look maybe last week or, whenever we with Trevor Lawrence and we kind of threw it back across in the middle of the field. And I think it was a good opportunity for me just to say, hey, I think we need to just take off or, try to progress and try to find somebody on the sidelines, not make those decisions in practice because we would never, want you to do that. So we're always trying to coach him. And I think he has learned from those opportunities. And I think he was ready to go in the game and try to help us yesterday.
Was he more decisive?
I'm sorry?
Was he more decisive?
He progressed through. And I think, the one where he took off and scrambled, he looked, didn't see what he, didn't like what he saw, put the ball away, made a really good move, got a first down, slid, took care of himself. I thought on maybe one of the moves the ball got, a little outside his body, which we'll continue to work with. But, I would say the decisive he progressed through on the third down and, was able to, pick up a first down for us.
So that's Mike Vrabel talking about Malik Willis. Again, limited reps in this game against the Chargers, but it did sound like Mike at least felt better about how he was seeing things out there. Now, it's a very, very low bar, but if he can give them even incrementally better ability and better execution in an NFL passing game, because he wasn't ready against the Texans and he wasn't ready against the Chiefs, if there's even incremental improvement there that allows him to operate at a higher level, that's the kind of progress that you're looking for. Now, Malik, how much that gets exposed the more that he plays, how much teams, in Houston in particular, how much better Houston is going to be able to handle him theoretically, even though what did he hand it? I think he handed it off 35 times in Houston.
He attempted 10 passes.
And only one of those in the second half.
Yeah, and in Sunday, he was 3 for 4 on, you said, was it 2 series or 1 series?
2 series. 2 series for Malik.
So 4 pass attempts on 2 series, and then in Houston, it was 10 pass attempts for an entire game.
You can interact with the show. 615-737-1045 is the number. Who gives the Titans the better chance to beat the Texans on Saturday? Malik Willis, healthy, or Ryan Tannehill, clearly injured? We can talk about that, and I'm sure, by the way, you're going to hear from Mike Vrabel in about an hour. Today is technically a Wednesday as far as their work week is concerned. Ryan Tannehill also going to speak to the media, so he will perhaps have updates of his own. But who gives them the better chance at success? I go back and forth with this because Houston is still not much better at stopping the run. Like, they're getting better play, and they're getting better play offensively. But I think that the more that you watch that team, the advantages are still there. Titans have been running the football better, decidedly. Now it came against the Chargers, who were terrible. But Derek in the last 2 weeks, the first half against the Jags, and then, he was taken out of the game by nature of score separation. And then this past weekend against the Chargers, Derek has looked like he can still give you some juice. So if it's against the NFL's worst rushing defense, again, fine, you figure it out. I think that even the threat of Malik running probably gives them the better opportunity to win on Saturday. But those inaccuracies and the struggles that he has, plus the wide receivers that you really can't trust. Now, if Treylon Burks plays, does that make a difference to you?
Yes. Who did Malik have at his disposal in Houston?
Conley, NWI.
Chig.
Hooper, who wasn't really.
Woods.
So he had everybody but Burks.
Yeah. And same in Kansas City. Everybody but Burks. And Phillips, who's been.
Yeah, Phillips. I don't even count Phillips at this point.
So, yeah, absolutely that would be a boost. By the way, the Texans surrendered 189 rush yards against the Chiefs, 5.7 yards per carry.
Yeah, they're still getting got on the ground. You can also interact with the show, by the way, on Zone TV. We are live streamed on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Boards Up writes on Twitch, wasn't ready, talking about Malik, wasn't ready against the Chiefs? Buck, did you not watch the wide receivers? No, in fact, I think Lucas can attest to it. I don't really get emotional about that. It's as mad as I've ever been watching a football game, watching that just clunk off Chris Conley's hands. That is as egregious an error as any player has made in a game for them this year.
Well, 2 things can be true about the Kansas City performance. Malik had some great throws.
Yep.
He had some throws that make you understand why scouts loved him in the draft process.
For sure.
Why he was a projected first-round pick. He also didn't see a lot. He did not, to me, play better from Houston to Kansas City.
Like, he just didn't. He did have an incredible throw that Chris Conley should have caught. NWI, it was a contested catch. You would like a better player to make a catch there in a big spot. Somebody needed to make a play. They were not capable of making plays on that particular day. Because what he continues to write is Malik looked amazing in Kansas City. Second quarter was great, and the wide receivers couldn't make a single catch. No, he didn't look great in Kansas City. He cannot operate an NFL passing game. You cannot look great in an NFL game if you cannot operate an NFL passing game playing professional quarterback. He's not a professional quarterback right now. He's just not there. That's okay until you need him to be. And then when you need him to be, he can't give you the kind of consistency or stability that you need from that position, especially with the way that this team is getting got right now on defense.
Well, they asked more of him in Kansas City because they needed to. They were going to run the ball for 300 yards like they did in Houston. He was 5 of 16 in Kansas City, 80 yards, a couple drops in there. The Conley drop and then one that NWI probably should have hauled in on the sideline. And Malik ran the ball 8 times for 40 yards in that game. I thought he looked more comfortable in Kansas City than he did in Houston, personally.
I think there was definitely a comfort level, but still, like, he just doesn't see things out there. Like, you can be comfortable, but if you don't necessarily understand what you're seeing out there, then it's hard for me to assess your performance. I mean, I wasn't ever going to assess it as amazing the way that this person is. Amazing on a scale of what?
Well, I think people see the good things that he did. That they see the lack of help that he had.
Sure.
I mean, was that not the game that we came with where A.J. Brown's tweeting, no one's open?
Yes.
And we come away with the stats about the average yards of separation from Titans receivers?
One of the worst, the worst in a game this year.
He sacked 3 times.
Yeah.
In that game, Malik Willis. So
Some of that pressure, though, on him.
Sure, but I think people see that. They see the lack of help he was getting from the guys he's throwing the ball to. They see some of the good throws he made. And they,
totally fair.
And they come away with that impression.
If
I think
you will
can
recall,
do both.
I came in here screaming about them betraying that rookie quarterback in a big spot. I was pissed because he himself made enough plays. Not enough plays were made for him. They could have won a game in Kansas City with him not able to operate an NFL passing game. That's what I'm saying. Like, that would have been insane to me.
Yeah, and he probably hasn't taken the step to where he can now run your offense seamlessly, but I thought he looked sharp with the small sample size in L.A.
Well, the weird, did we ever figure out, I think we were talking about this off air, the intentional grounding call on him?
Yeah, that was odd.
Because, like, I had a moment in there where I'm like, how could he possibly, I didn't see the replay initially. So my first thought was, like, how could you be so foolish? Like, how could you not know the rules in that spot? And then I watched the route that NWI ran, and he, in a way that he broke it off, just the ball kept going. Like, Malik just threw it in the general direction, and the route didn't look like it was towards NWI by the time you went back and looked at the route. So I kind of understood what the official was doing there, but it just seemed kind of unfair to me. Like that, because it offset an offsides by LA.
Well, it was a free play. That's why he goes deep.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if this is what happened, but in my mind, NWI just ran the route that he was going to run on that play when Malik in the moment shifted to free play, let's go down the field.
Yeah.
And miscommunication. I've never seen an intentional grounding on a free play, on just a shot play.
No, because I was looking at that and I was like, okay, at least they get 5 yards. But then we were confused for a minute.
Yeah.
And the press box, it's a minute delay from what you see on the field to what's up on the television monitors. Either way, we will find out more. Mike Vrabel is going to speak, as we mentioned, in an hour. Ryan Tannehill going to meet with the media today as well. We'll get as much of an update as he's willing to provide on his status for Saturday. Your phone calls coming up next. We will also take a look at teams that had some of the worst losses, literally worst losses in NFL history, because we've got winners and losers of the sports weekend next. Get to winners and losers of the sports weekend here in just a second. 615-737-1045. If you want to jump in. Meantime, we've been talking about the Titans quarterback situation, and we're happy to take your phone calls on that. Bub, calling us from Pennsylvania. What's happening?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. It's freezing up here.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I got to say that Malik is no way ready to start an NFL game from what I've seen from him. He got a long, long way to go. And
he's already had 2 starts, so, I mean, we're past that, aren't we?
Yeah, but he says me nothing, really. Couple other quick points. We have to get somebody to take the top off the defense, and we have to get a kick returner on this team before we're going to go anywhere. It's just we just never have that excitement or a player that can do that. And in this day and age, you have to have that.
Appreciate the call, Bub. So I thought it was interesting that they went with Hassan Haskins over, or rather they went with Julius Chestnut over Hassan Haskins back there to return since Haskins was back in the lineup off the hip injury.
Well, they're down another running back. I mean, they
without Hilliard,
yeah.
So in theory, you would need Haskins on those passing downs because obviously he was the running back in the 2-minute drill. Mike Vrabel talked yesterday about protection stuff. Derek is not a good pass protector. Hassan Haskins is better at that job. And without Hilliard, likely for the season at this point, they got to figure something else out. So they had a chance with Hassan Haskins. Kyle Phillips, obviously that never materialized either. C.J. Board was solid. I mean, again, I think it comes down to a low bar for these kind of things. But
on special teams?
C.J. Board?
You're talking about
returners?
Yeah, you're just talking about in the return game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at this point, the fact that they haven't, fumbled or muffed one.
Well, right. Mason Kinsey
enough.
Kinsey muffed one, right? And you had flashbacks. You had PTSD to week 1 or week 2 with Kyle Phillips.
And Robert Woods.
Oh, God. So all that being said, whether Malik's ready to start an NFL football game or not, it doesn't matter. He's already had 2 NFL starts. He's appeared in 5 games this season. So, like, at this point, good luck and God bless. Get him out there. If Ryan Tannehill can't go, and that's the thing that I think everybody's going to continue to think about. All right, go ahead and give me the circus music, please. Real simple. Who had a good weekend in sports? Who had a bad weekend in sports? It's about as high level as 40 bowls in 14 days. At least that's my understanding. 615-737-1045. Winner of the sports weekend, O.J. Simpson. Did you see this interview he's doing with this podcast that I don't know how they get the guests that they get, and they're sponsored by that seltzer company, Full Send Podcast. They had AB on after he had the freak out against the New York Jets where he rips his shirt off in MetLife and he's skipping through the end zone. Now they have O.J. Simpson. It's not even about what O.J. Simpson's asked about because the interview is incredibly uncomfortable because these dudes just don't care and they're asking him all kind of cringeworthy questions about murder and being potentially Khloe Kardashian's dad and stuff like that. Like the stuff that people of that generation, let me sound really old, stuff that those people care about O.J. Simpson for. But like O.J. Simpson continues to stay relevant, continues to get big platforms to talk about things. It sounds dirty to say, but I think O.J. is doing pretty well right now. I don't know how people feel about that or not.
You ask who had a good sports weekend. Nobody had a better sports weekend than Lionel Messi, the Argentinian national team, and the entire country of Argentina after winning the World Cup in a thrilling final over France on Sunday. Have you seen the scenes in Buenos Aires?
Yes, they're insane.
Unbelievable.
We think about championship parades and we think about a couple of people on boats in Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah.
This is literally an entire country converging on one spot to celebrate an incredible World Cup final and an incredible victory for one of the greatest of all time.
A legacy cementing World Cup for Lionel Messi, who had a stretch of, I think, 4 finals in a row that he lost, whether it was the World Cup, the Copa America, various international competitions. He retired from international play at one point because he just couldn't he was done. He just thought it wasn't meant to be. He comes back, and they win their first World Cup since 1986. And at the age of 35, it was the greatest send-off performance we've ever seen in international soccer. The amount of eyeballs, bringing an entire country together. It was beautiful to see the scenes in Buenos Aires, and it did pretty damn well in the U.S. Saw this today. The U.S. viewership for the World Cup final, 22.3 million viewers. Would you like to know the viewership for the World Series, the average viewership for the World Series in October?
I wish you wouldn't have done this with me off air, so it would be more organic on air, but go ahead.
11.8. Wow. The World Cup doubled up the World Series in viewership. What a game that was on Sunday, and Lionel Messi, the greatest of all time, cements his legacy, bringing home the one trophy that he didn't have, the most prestigious trophy in all of sports.
Did I sell that good enough for you?
You did. Good job.
Okay. It's called being a good teammate. We should try it more often. Loser of the sports weekend before we get to your phone call, 615-737-1045. Salt Bay. Have you seen this stuff?
Oh, my God. Salt Bay.
All right, so Salt Bay, I don't even know how to describe it to the audience that's not on the internet the way that a lot of people are. He's a restaurant owner. He had a very famous viral moment. Now he pops up at things like the World Cup, okay? Yeah. Like, that's just kind of the summary in a segment we like to call Google This.
He's Turkish, right? I think a famous Turkish chef that does the thing where he sprinkles the salt.
Yes, at a certain angle. I don't even know. Anyway, Google it, like I said. Either way, Salt Bay is wandering around on the field in Qatar after the World Cup and, making all of the players take pictures with him and the trophy. I don't know how it is that Salt Bay has this kind of access, other than I think he has a restaurant in Doha, so, Qatar's probably giving him everything in the world that he wants. Why not? But he is, sitting there grabbing at Lionel Messi, after Messi's trying to, go greet his family and things like that. After he's just broken down in emotional tears with his teammates, his coaches, his countrymen, right? He's fired up. It's the greatest moment. It's the crowning moment of a historic career. And there's Salt Bay, buzzing around him like a gnat, trying to get him to take a picture.
Just grabbing him from and good for Messi for snubbing Salt Bay. Oh, he's I just won the biggest sporting event on earth. It's the best moment of my life. I'm not going to spend any of it with Salt Bay. He's taking the trophy out of the hands of Argentina players to take a picture. They were all very clearly annoyed with him, but being polite enough to take a picture and not cause a scene in what is a very positive celebration. But, yeah, that's a good loser, Salt Bay. Get out of here.
Who's yours?
Losers of the weekend. If you play quarterback in the NFL, if you are a starting quarterback in the NFL, you probably either had a bad weekend or got hurt. We heard Tom Pelissero off the top. Jalen Hurts dealing with injury. Ryan Tannehill dealing with injury. We've just learned that Mike White will not play on Thursday night. It will be Zach Wilson for the Jets against the Jags. And otherwise, you didn't get hurt if you're Mac Jones, but you did get stiff-armed into oblivion by Chandler Jones on a crazy finish as the Patriots lost to the Raiders when they're pitching it around and Jacoby Myers tries the backwards lateral to Mac Jones, and it's picked off by Chandler Jones, and he just puts Mac Jones into the dirt.
Eric in Nashville has a winner and loser. What's up, Eric?
Hey, guys. My biggest winner of the weekend, Trevor Lawrence, guys. He now finally has a coach. He has Doug Peterson after getting rid of Urban Meyer, who was horrible last year. He was able to overcome a fumble and drive down the field to get a field goal to force overtime. This is a guy that could dominate the division like Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck did, so he is trending up. My biggest loser, guys, I hate to do this, but it's got to be Matt Ryan of the Indianapolis Colts. This is a guy, whether it's fair or not, is going to be known for blowing the biggest lead in Super Bowl history against the New England Patriots, and now blowing the biggest lead in NFL history against the Minnesota Vikings. Whether it's coaching, whatever it is, still he's going to go out in history for those two just terrible things. Guys, y'all take care, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Always good, Eric. Thank you for the call. Have you watched back much of that Jags-Titans game?
From 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Not since last week.
Okay, so I watched it through again last night after I watched the Jags-Cowboys game back. Doug Peterson's offense has these linebackers in absolute hell pre-snap. With the amount of eye candy and motion and all these kinds of different things that he's doing. They are a legitimate problem now that Trevor Lawrence is playing well. It's going to be an interesting game here in a couple of weeks.
They have weapons. Like we talked about their
and
health.
they had Calvin Ridley.
That's what I was about to say.
Next year.
Next season. It's Calvin Ridley in there with Evan Ingram and Zay. Well, I don't know if Zay Jones and Marvin Jones are all still going to be on there. Christian Kirk probably will. But they've got weapons in Duval.
Brody is in Manitoba. What's happening, Brody?
Hey, guys. Not much. Winner of the week, I think Malik Willis played great in the little bit that we saw him last Sunday. I don't know. I thought he was great. Loser of the week, Matt Patricia, Pat's coordinator. That was a terrible call, end of the game. Yeah.
Thanks for the call, Brody. We appreciate it. 615-737-1045. Yeah, we got to talk about the way some of these teams lost this weekend because the Patriots, obviously the Titans losing in dramatic fashion, but not like the Cowboys, or the Pats, or the Colts even. We're going to have a segment specifically for teams who just had epic collapses this weekend. 615-737-1045. Remember that Mike Vrabel is going to speak to the media at 11:45 today. We're going to carry that for you. Ryan Tannehill will meet with media at noon. What we're going to take a look at coming up next, though, is the AFC playoff picture after Week 15. A couple of different moving parts that affect the Titans. That's next.
It is 11:01. Good morning from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Green Bay Packers are still alive in the NFC playoff race after a 24-12 win over the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football. Packers improve to 6-8. The Rams mathematically eliminated. The Nashville Predators ended a 6-game losing streak with an overtime win at home over the Edmonton Oilers Monday night. Alexander Carrier with the game winner for a 4-3 final. That gets the Preds to 13-4. Titans on a short week. Christmas Eve matchup against the Houston Texans coming up on Saturday. They are one game ahead of the Jags in the AFC South race. Jacksonville on a short week as well. They'll travel to the Jets on Thursday. Jets head coach Robert Saleh stating today Mike White will be out for that game. It will be Zach Wilson starting for the Jets. Mike Vrabel will meet with media today at 11:45. You can catch that live right here on The Zone. And some SEC transfer portal news. On3 Sports reporting that former NC State quarterback Devin Leary expected to transfer to Kentucky. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2 off and rolling. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back. If you've been spending your time with us so far, very happy to have you here. Robert Walsh, Lucas Panzica, they're back there making it go. They'll answer the phone if you do decide to call. Mike Vrabel is going to speak to the media in about 40 minutes. Perhaps we'll get an update on the status of his starting quarterback. Perhaps not. Likely not. But we'll certainly try. Now, we said earlier that Ryan Tannehill was going to meet with the media. That does not appear to be the case with his status up in the air.
Liar.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I read my email wrong. My eyes lied. I didn't lie intentionally to you. My eyes lied to me there. That made me lie to you.
Intentional or not, it's still a lie.
How often do you lie to people in these quote-unquote breaking news updates that the news is irrelevant 2 minutes before you go on the air?
Sometimes.
Okay. So we're even.
I did not lie about Devin Leary transferring to Kentucky, according to reports.
That's a big get.
It is.
For Kentucky. Devin Leary's a good player if he can stay healthy. How early was his season done? He played the bulk of the season, didn't he?
He played at least half of the year at NC State. And they ended up, kind of winning a little bit down the stretch without him. They beat North Carolina in that rivalry week matchup on the last week of the regular season. But, Leary's a good player. Leary's a good prospect, and that's a good get for Kentucky, who is just going to have to keep going the portal route, it would seem.
Question, because Derrick Henry is going to speak today. Do we want to carry Derrick's press conference? We do not typically.
Put it to a poll?
Let's put that to a poll. I'd be curious to know if people actually want to hear from Derrick that way. Because, he's not... He is more forthcoming after losses. He's kind of like Vrabel that way. And if you ask him a bunch of questions about him, like, it's just not going to go anywhere. Like, he'd rather talk about his teammates or, team success and things like that. Like, it's just, Derrick is not an overwhelmingly, he's just not a big quote, right? He's a big name. He's a superstar. He's an incredible player. He's just not a great quote. So if people want to hear from Derrick Henry, we can do that. But we will decide it democratically via the poll. 615-737-1045 is the number. So, also in Lucas's quote-unquote breaking news update was the Rams getting mathematically eliminated last night by the Green Bay Packers. Monday Night Football, 24-12 the game. It was tough sledding for the Rams, and it's been tough going all year long. So they are the quickest defending Super Bowl champion to be eliminated the next season. Like, they got mathematically eliminated before any other defending Super Bowl champion prior to them. It's been a really tough season for them. Like, it's beyond, the bill on all of their, lack of draft assets coming due. Matt Stafford has obviously missed a tremendous amount of time. Their offensive line, since Whitworth retired, in shambles. Like they're down bad. But they won a ring a year ago. So they're probably not that beat up about it. Now, as far as other playoff implications from this past week in the NFL, some things have shifted around slightly. As you look at the standings in the playoff, the top 2 seeds, particularly in the AFC, they're holding firm with the Bills at 1, locked in. The Chiefs at 2, locked into the playoff spot, not locked into the 1 and 2 overall seeds, although it would be tough to catch either of them at 11 and 3 right now. Bengals have overtaken the Ravens for the division lead. Now at 10 and 4, the Ravens dropping to 9 and 5 this past weekend.
Big comeback
for Cincinnati.
Yeah, there
against
were a few.
Tampa Bay.
I think there were 3 comebacks of 17 or more points over the weekend.
We're going to talk about those specifically next. But yes, Joe Burrow had 4 touchdown passes to come back from a 17-0 hole against Tom Brady. So now the Bengals are no longer the team that you would host in the postseason. It would be the Ravens, the more favorable matchup if you are the Titans and you can manage to hang on to this division, which is no sure thing right now. You can have a better and more favorable matchup, even though Lamar Jackson is likely to be ready by wild card weekend. So you have to keep that in mind. Of course, Lamar is always good for an incredible play or two. You know that better than anybody, given that he did that to you here at home not that long ago, 2020, or I guess January of 21. So the Chargers, by nature of their win and the Patriots' loss, they are now the 6th seed in the postseason. The Miami Dolphins dropped to 7. Pats, Jets, and Jags officially in the mighty and legendary In the Hunt graphic.
Would you have believed last year that someone would tell you the Chargers would be this many games better than the Rams?
Ooh. I might have. The Rams this year, I was not terribly high on them. Like, run it back, run it back, run it back, run it back, run it back. Give it up for Aaron Donald. What a stud.
They ran it back.
Who is that?
That's Sean McVay.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that was Sean McVay at the Super Bowl celebration.
Why
parade.
is his voice 7 octaves lower than it is in the Campbell's Chunky Soup commercials?
I don't know, because they've been drinking for 24 hours. They just won the Super Bowl.
He was sauced. He was sauced draft night, too. Nobody had a better time celebrating a Super Bowl than the LA Rams. But yeah, I mean, as soon as they started talking about Aaron Donald retiring to get a better contract.
Oh, Sean McVay retiring.
That's what I'm saying. Like, as soon as they started that, I'm like, this dude's 36 years old talking about potential retirement to get a bigger raise. Okay, I get that. Heady play by you. But also, like, are you really, really running it back? Like, are you really gunning for this thing again? Or are you going to shut Matt Stafford down halfway through the season and just be like, he's kind of got a neck thing and an elbow thing?
You shut Matt Stafford down because you were pretty much out of playoff contention.
Sure, but not until last night were you mathematically eliminated.
Yeah, I mean, only 5 teams have been mathematically eliminated.
Damn this sport.
Yeah, we've got 3 games left.
Only 5?
Yeah.
Only 5 of these terrible football teams? Get out of here.
Can you name them?
I would have to think that the Falcons are now mathematically eliminated.
No, the Falcons.
The Falcons are alive?
They are alive by a smidge at 5-9. And that is because the NFC South is an abomination.
Get them out of my life, the Falcons.
I mean, like it or not, the Falcons are 5-9. You know who leads that division? The Bucks. You know what the Bucks are? 6-8. Yeah. So yes, the Falcons are very much alive.
Okay. So the Rams are out. The Cardinals are out. The Texans are out. The Broncos?
Broncos
are out. So who am I missing?
Bears.
The Bears are out. God, that's it? There's so many bad football teams left.
I imagine the Colts will be sure.
I mean, how are they still? It's because these damn Titans. They keep losing games. Get the Colts out of my life. No more Colts in the hunt.
They play the Giants this week in New York.
Oh, God.
Surely a loss would eliminate the Colts.
I don't know, man. If the Titans lose, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, it's all opened up again.
It's just so great that every team in the NFC South is alive right now. and 3 because they're
nobody wins that. Nobody is better off for having those 4 teams still technically mathematically alive.
Like, complain all you want about the AFC South, and I've been banging this drum all year. The NFC South is worse than the AFC South. You have 6-8, 5-9.
Not by win percentage. Not by win percentage. Because the Texans have 1 win on the season.
That's true.
They are mathematically, they are a better division than the AFC South.
Okay, that's fair. If you add up all the records, it's probably better. And the AFC South does have the worst team of both divisions. But you've got 6-8, 5-9, 5-9, 5-9 in the NFC South.
So
all
bad.
4 teams are alive to win the division and host a. Can you imagine the Carolina Panthers hosting a playoff game?
They did that a couple of years ago. I mean, it was with Cam, but they were under 500 hosting a playoff game as that terrible division winner. I can't remember. It's been probably 6 years, 5 or 6 years. But yeah, Ron Rivera and that Panthers team with Cam Newton made the playoffs under 500.
And the Panthers still play the Bucks and the Saints in the division.
Oh, good.
So that division's going to be interesting. That's low-key the most interesting division in football down the stretch. Yes, it is.
No.
As far as who's going to...
Their judgment is terrible. You're the person who is excited for this year's Music City Bowl between Will Levis-less Kentucky and Iowa.
Embrace
and
the suck.
also who roots for ties
yes.
in NFL games.
That's correct.
You are trying to sell me and the audience on the idea that the NFC South is low-key the most interesting division. Bleep you.
Well, I'll skip over the fact that you're pretending like you wouldn't love to see the Colts be the first team in NFL history to tie twice in 1 year.
I don't want to watch the Colts do anything anymore. I don't want to watch the Colts.
I'll ignore you pretending that you don't want that to happen.
I don't.
Because we all want that to happen.
Nobody wants that to happen.
But you tell me what the most interesting division is down the stretch here as far as who – I mean, it's the AFC South, obviously. And that could come down to the final week of the regular season. But as far as one division where all 4 teams are still in contention to win the thing,
no,
there is only one. There can be only one, the mighty NFC South.
I hate that so much. I mean, but you're right. Like, they're all 4 still alive. Just climbing over each other. Sam Darnold and Tom Brady without any offensive linemen. And
Desmond Ritter and yeah, I guess.
And Ferkser, because it's not Kyle Pitts anymore. It's Desmond Ritter, Michael Pruitt, and Ferkser.
And, Desmond Ritter and Andy Dalton like elbowing each other out of the way to try and climb up and pull Tom Brady down by the back of his jersey.
And just put Jameis in at this point. Like, at least let us have some fun.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch Andy Dalton anymore.
That would really spice things up down the stretch here.
Right?
In this division.
Throw him in. Why not? just do something nuts. Like, you're 5. Are they 5-9? The Saints? Are they one of these 5-9?
Everybody
teams?
in that division's 5-9, but the Bucks, who are
God,
one
I
game
hate
better.
That division so much.
I love it. I'm grateful for it.
Oh, goodness. All right. Speaking of things that we're grateful for, I was grateful for the amount of entertainment value that some of the collapses that happened to NFL teams provided to me this week. We're going to talk about who had the worst of these coming up next. We'll also take your phone calls. Mike Vrabel speaks to the media in a half hour from now. We'll carry it live for you. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
I mean, it's tough because they're all so different as far as the stakes of each game. Like the Colts, the answer is the Colts, who had the worst meltdown. It's the Colts. It's the worst meltdown in history. Yeah, it doesn't cost them anything except embarrassment. The Patriots lose a big AFC matchup against Vegas. It's the Lucas Panzica show with Buck Rising. Robert's not in here. He went home. He's been here since 6. We just had this conversation. There's only one. Are you asking? Okay, what the worst way to lose? I think is because the worst blown lead in history is what the Colts did on Saturday. The worst way to lose for me is New England. Yeah. Former Patriots player Chandler Jones. I agree. I consider prime time a 6 or 7 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday or on a Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday night. Are you talking about the Cowboys game where they give up 33 points in the fourth quarter, being the other one? And Jeff Saturday was brought on to do what? To rally the locker room, right? To be a leader of men. feel like what we've seen from the Colts late in their last two games, because that's their last two performances with the bye week in between. They've given up 55 points in the last two fourth quarters combined. That is the antithesis of the quote unquote fight and grit that Jeff Saturday was supposed to bring. And he didn't even turn it over. How amazing is that? They won the turnover battle. The Vikings coughed it up 3 times.
Guys, really enjoy the program. Your sort of love affair, the bromance you guys got going is really funny. It's really fun to listen to.
Thank you.
Loser of the week, there's a competition to see which coach is the worst clock manager in the NFL. I think the guy at Denver's probably leading, but Mike McCarthy has got to be up there. The Lawrence fumbles with 1:26 left. Cowboys got the ball in the 40. Inexplicably on third down, well, they run first, timeout, Jacksonville, run second, timeout, Jacksonville. On third down, they throw a deep out, so Jacksonville doesn't have to use that timeout. They get the ball back with a minute left and obviously go down, use that timeout, kick a field goal, take it to overtime. I just don't understand it. Can you guys know football? Explain that to me.
Oh, I can't explain to you some of Mike McCarthy's decision-making. Thank you for the call, Jedi. We appreciate it. That I think is the biggest knock on him consistently throughout the course of his tenure, whether it be in Green Bay or Dallas. The way that they lost that game, man. We talked about that yesterday. Thank you for the call. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. We talked about the way that the Cowboys gave that up yesterday. And the interception's not on Dak. Like the wide receiver, 85, just lets it bounce off his hands. It's a tip drill at that point. Defender picks it off, runs it back, ball game. That sucks. Now, they're still in second place. They've still got 10 wins on the season. Dallas does, and they're as good a we haven't looked at the NFC standings in a while. Was it you that was talking to me about this morning? What the NFC looks like, how hilarious it is compared to the AFC? Oh, he's got something going on. He's not listening to me.
I don't know. Was that me?
I think so. But we're going to look at this anyway. Because what is happening in the NFC is just as silly as what's happening in the AFC. So you got the Vikings, or rather you got the Eagles at the top, 13-1. Then it's Vikings, Niners, and Bucks, who still are the only team among the top 4 seeds not locked into a playoff spot at 6-8. Cowboys have clinched the playoffs. They are 10-4. So Philadelphia would need an outright disaster to have this thing cave in that way. Giants and Commanders. So the entire NFC East is in the playoff right now at that point. Seahawks, Lions, and Packers still mathematically alive, as are the Panthers, Saints, and Falcons, the way that we talked about. The only 3 eliminated in the NFC are the Cardinals, the Rams, and the Bears.
How about the NFC East?
They were the NFC South for the longest. I once led a campaign to defund the NFC East.
I mean, it feels like just yesterday that the Washington Commanders are hosting a playoff game with the losing record.
Oh.
And Taylor Heineke is dueling it out with Tom Brady.
The hardest playoff game that Tom Brady had to play that postseason. He dusted Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, went right through them.
I mean, it's the best division of football right now. Top
the
to bottom.
NFC East, yeah. No, I mean, it is. And that game was compelling again. It wasn't a great game, but it was a compelling game. It came down to the wire. There was a controversial call. You've got Kevin Durant offering commentary. I forgot he was a Commanders fan. I forgot he's from that area. So he's the only Commanders fan I know at this point in time of public record. But at this point, yeah, you have the entire NFC South still in contention, and you have the entire NFC East in the playoff because the final wild cards are Dallas, New York, and Washington in that order. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people in this audience that remember a time when those games mattered more than any other games. The NFC East. It was just a different brand of football. And this was before everything kind of leveled out the way that it has over the course of time and the way that they've built the sport. But like those, I think it's a cool kind of resurgence. I mean, I know they're all major market teams, but yeah, they all are of consequence this year. And they're all pretty different.
Yeah, Cowboys, Eagles this weekend.
Yeah, but without Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
That sucks. Because that's one of the best games of the season.
Yeah, Christmas Eve, 3:25.
So RJ Ochoa at SB Nation, he works for their Cowboys site. I'm going to see if I can find this tweet because it was interesting, the amount of injuries that particular series has had at quarterback, Cowboys and Eagles. So looking at this, for the Cowboys, give me 1 second. Oh, by the way, I because I'm scrolling my Twitter timeline, did you see the news that Brent broke the other day about Jason Witten? Yesterday, Jason Witten and Lipscomb?
Yeah, head coach of Lipscomb Academy.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting development. He's not on 3HL this week, is he?
Why are you asking me?
I don't know. You're here longer than I am. You see them more than I am. And also, I'm trying to find this tweet. Thank you for helping. I'm not able to pull it up right away. But basically, there have been a lot of injuries in the Cowboys and Eagles series, particularly at quarterback. Like, they haven't got the starting quarterback against the starting quarterback. Here it is. So, DiNucci and Wentz in 2020, Dalton and Hurts in 2020, Prescott and Hurts in 2021. It's the only time both starters have played that way. 2021, Week 18, meaningless. They didn't have it. 2022, Rush and Hurts, Cooper Rush, Prescott, and Minshew will be the game. So that's the quarterback situation in the Cowboys-Eagles matchups the last 3 years.
Nick Sirianni, 1 minute ago, says no timetable on him, talking about Jalen Hurts. He has a sprained shoulder. There's a chance he can play this week. He's a freak. He heals fast. I will not rule him out this week.
Okay. What? I mean, I didn't see any timelines, but I saw a couple of weeks potentially is all I saw out there from the NFL insiders. But beyond that, I haven't seen anybody put like a hard timetable on it. Nobody's doing any kind of reporting that way. So if Nick Sirianni's saying that he's potentially going to be in there, then we'll see how this goes. I think that the rest of this, as we kind of see, so we've decided that the Raiders had the most catastrophic loss this weekend. Yes, or I'm sorry, that the Patriots had the most catastrophic loss this weekend.
Yes, I think the stakes and the way that they lost makes it the most catastrophic.
Is the way that the Patriots lost funnier than the way that the Colts lost?
No, unless you're a Raiders fan.
Unless you're a Raiders fan.
Yeah, or you just really hate the Patriots,
which is a lot of people.
Yes.
But I do think it's become a bit of blood sport, pointing and laughing at Matt Ryan as he looks just lost on the sideline, the memes flying around. It's just a brutal situation.
Well, because the Colts situation is entirely funnier than what although the Patriots have quite a comedic element of Matt Patricia calling plays on offense and Mac Jones cussing them out. But I think the entire state of the franchise of Indianapolis right now, especially for Titans fans, is a great source of
well, yeah. If you can't enjoy your own football team, point and laugh at the misery of others in your division.
Especially if you're, in the midst of a 4-game losing streak and potentially about to cough up the division
and still swept them.
Yeah,
back-to-back years.
It's good to point and laugh at things.
There is some kind of therapeutic release in that. If you can't win yourself, point and laugh at somebody who's doing worse than you. That's a real good attitude to go into the holiday season with. So we will take a break. We will hear from Mike Vrabel coming up next. It is a Wednesday according to their schedule because they play on a Saturday this week against the Houston Texans. So the head coach at the podium when we return. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. We got playoff clinching scenarios for a bunch of teams. We're going to give you here in just a second. Mike Vrabel going to meet with the media. A little less than 2 minutes from now. We got to thank, though, Hardee's, as always, for providing lunch today, making things possible. They're also a big part of what we do on Titans Radio. Big news, you can get more for less at Hardee's with the 4 for $6 deal. You get to take your pick of 4 tasty flavors, including sandwiches, sides, and a drink, all for only $6. Come create your perfect combo only at Hardee's. Are you showing off the goods for people on camera?
Got burgers in the green room.
All right, a lot of burgers. You just tried the off-mic yelling, except that it was inaudible. You were too far away from the microphone.
How'd you hear it then?
How did I hear it?
Yeah.
Well, because I can see you. And then I realized while you were yelling that I couldn't hear you. How many different sandwiches did you grab? Because I think there's at least 4 back there.
1 burger, 1 chicken.
Why are you breathing heavily? Are you?
I've inhaled three quarters of the chicken sandwich.
You already ate that whole thing?
No, it's still a little bit left. Showing Zone TV.
Okay, that's lovely.
1 burger, 1 chicken sandwich, 1 hot ham and cheese sandwich, and a pie.
Okay, so that's Lucas's 4 for $6 situation. 3 sandwiches and a pie. I'm very happy for you back there. Thank you very much to Hardee's. So, as we await Mike Vrabel's press conference, obviously the quarterback status is very much up in the air. We'll see what Mike Vrabel has to say. It'll be a walkthrough at this point for Tennessee, and there will be an injury report. It will be estimated because it is simply a walkthrough. I know Derrick Henry is going to speak. What are the results of the poll right now, Lucas? Oh, in fact, you wait. You look for Mike Vrabel. I'll check out the results of the poll at Buck Rising. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry you're busy back there eating pie. At Buck Rising is where you can vote on the polls, where Lucas has asked you, should we carry Derrick Henry's press conference live today? 73% of the audience says yes, so I guess we're going to roll with Derrick too whenever he makes an appearance. I mean, how much more Derrick has to say, though, is the thing, right? Because he played well. And the opportunities that he was or was not given on a couple of 3rd and 2s, one he was on the field, one he was not on the field, and both times they threw it in what seemed like the most obvious situation to run Derrick Henry. They opted not to do the most obvious thing. Now, if it works, there are precious little complaints, but you're by percentage you're doing yourself a favor by playing to your greatest strengths, playing to your identity, playing to what the core of your team is. If you don't think that Derrick Henry can get 2 yards at this point, then what are we even doing out here? And I think that's at the core of the situation. Like, why are you trying to get cute with the thing that you keep telling us is the thing that you want to do the best, and the thing that you have done better than anybody, which is run the football? Not done better than anybody this year, but where a lot of their identity predicates itself on. So let's hear from Mike Vrabel, who's live at St. Thomas Sports Park right now.
48 hours from the time of the game. So, we'll have to make sure that everybody prepares as a starter and that and they're ready to go on the game plan.
It's kind of the challenge, like, for an athlete, like you see Ryan Tannehill come back into the game after he gets hurt, but kind of what happens after?
Well, I think there's a lot of I think that's probably a really interesting question. Where you see guys kind of come back and finish, and there's adrenaline and there's a lot of things that go into trying to get back out there and allowing a player to finish. And then I think that there's a lot of trauma that happens, whether you're talking about a shoulder or a hand or a wrist, or there's even things that guys may leave the game and then the next day, or they're like, wake up and they're like, holy, you know what I mean? Like that, I didn't really feel that and didn't know. So we've had cases of that that have happened. So, I mean, I think that there's, for those 3 hours, every athlete, especially football players, put their bodies through a lot. And, sometimes those injuries come to light, maybe a day or two after. but especially the ones that have something happen and then kind of go back in. And, we do monitor. I'm very confident that we monitor, the ability not to make, an injury worse or put the player at jeopardy. Hopeful that they can, protect themselves. I'm very aware of that when we make those decisions. And then we kind of go from there.
As you've gone through the last 4 weeks, what are some of the common threads that you're seeing, show up on game day that's keeping you guys from winning?
Well, we went, 2 games without creating a turnover on defense. We didn't turn the ball over on offense. We, again, Philly just, wasn't good enough in all phases. The turnovers against Jacksonville, critical. And then, the offensive penalties last week, and then defensively the, situational football at the end of the game, allowing them to run it in, in the red zone last week, were probably things that contributed to that game in general. So, I don't think there's one specific thing, whether we weren't able to run the ball against, Cincinnati or Philly to kind of get things going. Jacksonville felt like we moved the ball well. Like, we don't really, we have to focus on this week and how we pull it all together, and try to combine all the good stuff, that we've done and find a way to prepare and find a way to win.
What's the balance between game planning for the Texans and preparing for potential impact of the weather?
Well, I think it could be windy. It'll be cold. I think the impact of the kicking game, I think that, we would have had to prepare to return kicks against the Texans anyways. They're a very good special teams unit, very good kickoff. I think they're, first or second in kickoffs inside the 20-yard line. So even in the dome, they're Fairbairn's kicking them up there. They're covering them extremely well. So we would have had to return kickoffs and be really good in that phase from a special teams standpoint. Maybe just ball security, understanding that, how critical it is here late in the year when you're dealing with weather. And if it snows, it snows. If it rains or freezes, they'll be, the same for everybody.
I know it could be the coldest game ever here, but you guys have played colder games before, so it really shouldn't make that big of a difference, should it?
Well, I hope it, never makes a difference. We've played in the rain, we've played in the snow, and, you kind of go through a lot of these things, and we'll get some work inside today, and then we'll work our way outside as the week goes along, and then everybody will have to just be prepared in their own way, whether that's the footing or the shoes that we wear, or, all the other things that go along with playing in weather games.
You try not to ask players to do more than they're capable of. When you're as depleted as you are, does that become more difficult?
Well, I think the challenge that we've always talked about is, do you try to do more, right, and try to come up with some magic scheme, or do you try to do less and try to focus on execution? And I think there's a balance somewhere in between. Some plays that, maybe we thought, or some defensive scheme maybe that we thought that, hey, let's do that, and then, it didn't go very well, or we didn't execute it. I think that there's always a really great ability to execute your scheme, what you've practiced and the bread and butter, and, mixing in a couple tweaks in the red zone and maybe on third down defensively. I think trying to have a core of what we do so that these parts that, these players that, whether it's John Reed last week, for example, or Jack Gibbons that maybe haven't been out there as much, or, when Monty Rice was working his way back in, and different, Andrew Adams, and now the volumes for some of these guys has picked up because they kind of know it. So I think early on you probably are better off doing less than you are, a whole lot.
How did Gibbons do on Sunday, and are you hopeful maybe to get Zach back in the mix as well?
Well, he'll do some stuff, and again, he'll have to do some stuff creatively. These IR rules, something that, hopefully that we can talk about just for the in the off season for, helping the player, get some confidence to, return to play. And you can't put pads on a guy that's, on IR. You have to, take him off. And Zach is in a return to play. And so, we're at a point in the season now where pads isn't really an option. So just trying to be able to see where he is with his arm and how he can use it and, make sure that he can protect himself and do some things. So we'll see kind of where he's at. I don't know if today will tell us much, but, hopefully as we, just to get some guys ready, whether that's Zach or, anybody else.
How's Traylon coming along? It's been a couple weeks. How is he doing and progressing through the whole process?
Well, good. I mean, it's just, I think for the player, I don't want to speak for them. It's just they have to remain patient. They have to do everything that, is in the protocol and be honest with the doctors and the trainers and the independent, doctors and with the impact testing and everything that goes along. So, hopefully we'll get them out there today and get Trey out there today, and then they can continue to work themselves through that process as it goes along.
Is there an instance where guys can clear concussion protocol, but still a decision is made to maybe keep them out?
I don't know if we've necessarily had that happen. I think you're referring probably to the Denver. I just can't, since I've been here, I don't think they've ever said somebody was cleared and we didn't feel like, they could play. That just isn't something that happened. I'm sure it obviously did, but we just haven't had that, situation come up.
The Texans have lost Pierce. It looks like they're bouncing quarterbacks around some. How have they done it? How have they been so competitive the last 2 years?
Good, because they have some really good veteran players that have played, other places that are now, Malik Collins has been there. They got some good youth, but they have, Jerry Hughes is a player that I've always had respect for. Plays hard. They've been able to work lately with these tight ends. It seems like they're really looking at them in the red zone. Have had success. The O-line's played well. Has protected the quarterback. And they've used the, the quarterback system to kind of force you to play a couple different looks and be prepared for a lot of things. And that's something that we'll have to be prepared for as, the game starts and it works its way through, like whether they're going on the ball or they're unbalanced or there's two quarterbacks are in the game.
That's Titans head coach Mike Vrabel ahead of their first day of work before the Texans game. Derrick Henry is next.
It is 12:02. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Titans are on a short week with this Christmas Eve matchup against the Houston Texans coming up on Saturday as the Titans are one game ahead of the Jags in the AFC South race. Jacksonville also on a short week. They will take on the Jets on the road Thursday. Jets will be without Mike White again, according to head coach Robert Saleh. It will be Zach Wilson starting against the Jaguars. Mike Vrabel speaking to media right now saying that Zach Cunningham will hopefully be able to play on Saturday against the Texans as they look to get Danico Autry and Treylon Burks back at practice this week.
You sure?
As well. I hate you so much. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour. What is happening? Hope everybody is having a great day so far. We are so pleased to have you guys here with us. Lucas Panzica, back there delivering breaking news and eating ham. A man of many talents, all at once. Mike Vrabel just wrapped up his press conference. You'll hear from Titans running back Derrick Henry in just a moment. 615-737-1045. We'll get to your phone calls in the meantime while we wait for Derek. Lucas, if you would take time between bites of ham to tell me who's on the line, I would greatly appreciate you doing so. I'm sorry, did you shout something at me through a mouthful of food?
No.
Liam Neeson. Should Lucas be banned from eating during the show?
No.
I mean, we can't overrule Liam Neeson. Them's the breaks, as a wise man once said. I think that the situation though for the Titans offense, as we kind of talk about it, Mike Vrabel's asked some questions about Malik Willis and his readiness. This will be Malik Willis has played enough football now that he'll be seeing the same defense as he's previously played. It'll be his first opportunity to play against a defense that he's already seen before. Personnel, schematically, he'll understand some of the checks and calls. He'll understand what they're going to look like, what they're going to try to do, pre-snap motion, all those kind of things that they will be trying to work through if, in fact, it is him that starts on Sunday, or rather Saturday on Christmas Eve. Now, the thing that kind of makes this even more curious is, will he have Treylon Burks? It doesn't sound, I mean, it's a walkthrough, but it didn't sound overwhelmingly optimistic about Treylon Burks right now. Mike Vrabel said he's doing fine in the concussion protocol, but that's all that Mike is legally allowed to say per the CBA. He's either in or out of the protocol. He can't talk about what he's able to do while he's in or out. Well, he can talk about what he's able to do once he's out of the protocol, but while he's in it, it's no-go. How much of a difference does that make in the Malik Willis experience if you have a deep threat that you can count on? And is Treylon Burks going to be right away to get out there and make these plays? Because, I mean, this is a considerable amount of time. Concussions are always specific to the individual, but, you know, obviously you want to be cognizant of how much worse some of them can be depending on person. I don't know how many concussions prior to this Treylon Burks has had in his college football or high school football career, but this being something that's kept him down now for the better part of 2 games, you hope that he's doing okay, and Mike Vrabel made it seem like he's doing okay within the protocol, even if it's taking a bit longer. So now the Texans, still not a great rush defense. Malik, we'll say likely. I think it's more likely that Malik starts just by nature of Ryan Tannehill not speaking to media today. The idea that it's Derek and Roger McCreary instead of Ryan Tannehill as it would be on a typical first day of the practice week, I think that's notable. And I think the comments that that Ryan Tannehill gave us after the game are notable about it. You know, he said it probably feels much worse than it looks. And it didn't look terribly pleasant. So then there's the idea of, okay, how does this team, again, find ways to rally around? In fact, Lucas, can we hear from Kevin Byard? On Sunday night, this was before we talked to Ryan Tannehill, in the Chargers postgame locker room, or the opposing locker room in SoFi Stadium after the Chargers beat them 17-14. There's been a bit of a change in tone from one of the team's most notable leaders. That's Kevin Byard. I want you to hear the exchange that he had with us in the locker room at SoFi Stadium.
Yeah, we fought. Obviously, didn't show up in the biggest moment of the game, which obviously the last drive. So disappointed about that. But, made some plays, but obviously wasn't, good enough or enough to win the ball game. So that's what it comes down to.
What's the difference between this game and the last couple of games, KB? I mean, is there something that stands out in terms of what's not necessarily clicking, or the execution at times, or is there even a common thread?
I really see a difference. I mean, we lost. So, that's probably the biggest thing I've been saying. We've been losing. So we lost 4 straight, so I don't know.
Things slipping away?
It seemed like it. I don't know.
Jaguars one behind you now.
We lost. Division's still there, but personally, I can care less about that. I'm not really into it. Obviously want to win the division and all that stuff, but I'm not really into, just getting to the playoffs and all that. It don't look like we're a team right now that's going to beat anybody. So we got to find a way to get back to work and beat Houston. That's all we can really do at this point.
So we don't look like a team that's going to beat anybody right now. That's from Kevin Byard. Is that the most downtrodden you've heard that man? It's a lot different energy than okay. I know you're eating. Don't point at me with your mouth open. Oh my God. It is, to answer the question. Thank you, Liam Neeson, for always being there for me. That is a much different energy from Kevin Byard than even from 3 days ago, right? When we had 3 days prior, when we had him on the radio show on Wednesday. They just don't have answers at this point. And it's not like they go out of their way to answer questions very often that we pose to them. But when their frustration is, I wish we could give you guys better answers, we just don't have any answers right now. Yeah, man, it's pretty tough. So how they rebound from that, it's not like anything's going to change necessarily in the locker room. It's not like the messaging changes. It's not like they've been not actively trying to win a game in the last four goes. But for this particular team, how they respond to guys like Derrick Henry and Kevin Byard and Mike Vrabel, messaging can only do so much. It's the execution. It's the personnel situation. It's all the stuff that we've been talking about time and time again. And now they're potentially facing another game without their quarterback. The first two, they went pretty well. So we'll see how much they're able to build on that. And at least they know earlier rather than later in the week. Like, for example, Amani Hooker, who has been dealing with some stuff, practiced. It got worse throughout the course of the week, and they had to make a decision later on Amani Hooker than they otherwise have. At least they're going into this week knowing that Tannehill is going to be a quote-unquote uphill battle for him to get on the field on Saturday afternoon. So we'll see what happens with Malik. In fact, we get a player every week on the show. I haven't texted the Titans PR staff yet, but we'll see if we can't get Malik on the show. It'd be interesting if a quarterback is going to talk at some point this week. I'd be interested to hear from him, even if it's just to talk about being more comfortable than it looked like he was against the Chargers as opposed to the first two starts that we've seen him in, and how much more he feels like he's able to execute at this point in time. Roger McCreary speaking to media right now. Derrick Henry, you'll hear from coming up next. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. He up there? Welcome back. We are presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com. What did I say to all of Nashville as he walks out of the room? Unbelievable. Derrick Henry's going to be at the podium here in just a second. What did you say that I said to all of Nashville? You just turning my microphone on? You've had food in your mouth for an entire hour at this point. At some point, I have to be able to talk to you. I don't know what you want from me. It's just, this is why we can't have nice things. He was manifesting all week long food to show up at the studio, and Hardy's kind enough to do so for us with their 4 for $6 deal. And Lucas took full advantage with all 4 of the items, I'm pretty sure, shoved into his mouth at one time. It's pretty impressive, like a boa constrictor almost.
I wouldn't have bought this honey bun this morning if I had known this would be the case.
Oh, you have yet more food that you're stashing back there. You're like a bear. What are you, hibernating?
I was halfway through the honey bun when I learned that we had Hardee's coming. So now I have half a honey bun to look forward to.
Okay, I'm very happy for you at this point. So we'll hear from Derrick Henry, and we'll see what Derrick has to say about the improvements that this team needs to make and to try and get right against a team that they have had a considerable amount of success against. It is not a guaranteed win, despite the Houston Texans having but one win on the season. And as far as this Titans team goes, they did play better football defensively. They did give up the 35-yard completion at the end of the game to set up the field goal situation, but the run game has been operating better. So let's hear from the running back now.
I'm just preparing and trying to do the best I can to, get everybody better and come out here and do what I need to do to get ready for Sunday.
Talk to Roger. I mean, what's it been like kind of getting to know him as a rookie, even though he's an Auburn guy, and what maybe impressed you the most about him?
He's just all about his work. Comes in and works hard, learns every day. He's grown as a player and plays hard and do whatever he can to help us win.
You conscious of the forecast? Cold games usually look pretty good for a running back. It's supposed to be really bad.
Weather conditions can be the weather conditions. You still got to go out there and play. Hot, cold, just football.
Throughout the last 4 weeks, have you seen the energy in practice and transferring the game? Have you seen that consistent? And then is it the same, as you guys came into the building this week to prepare for this game?
Our energy is always going to be the same. We got to come to work. We got to get better. And I think that's been the main focus. And I think guys have been positive and want to do whatever they can to, get us better and, help us, go out there and get a win. And I think the guys have the same positive attitude this week.
First 4 games you guys have been on since you've been here. Has that changed the mood in there?
Has it changed the mood since I just said everybody has positive energy and nobody's going to be negative? That doesn't help anything. Guys just got to come back, go to work, and get better. Try to go out and get a win.
Malik's ability to run, how does that help your game at all in terms of the option plays and things like that?
Just give us another asset. He can run with the ball. He's good in open field, and, he makes plays with his legs. So just another asset for the offense.
Derrick, you've faced a lot of loaded boxes and run pressures, obviously, over the last few years. Do you think that they can do anything really different or that you haven't seen, or is this just a game where it becomes kind of mano-a-mano again? You just got to be better than them up front.
Yeah, I don't really think about all that. I just think that us doing our job, executing, do what we need to do to put plays together, to score points, and eventually, win the game. I think that needs to be the main focus. But, it starts with us in these meeting rooms and going out to practice and, putting it all together and letting it, happen in the game on Saturday.
Short week force you to do anything differently in terms of your recovery, or you're pretty confident Saturday you'll be fine either way?
No, I'll be good.
Derrick, Ryan has dealt with ankle issues for both ankles. Now he gets hurt again, comes back out. What can you say about the way he's fought to make sure he's on the field as much as possible this year?
You can do whatever you can to help this team win and lead of this team, and it shows the heart that he has to come out and play through the pain and just finish the game like he did.
David asked you about the short week. What is the challenge when you do have a short week and you come off a West Coast trip and Tuesday should be a day off for you. Instead, you're on the practice field. What do you have to do, I guess, mentally, physically, as a team to get ready to play?
Just prepare. I mean, we played on Thursday. We just played on Saturday, one day closer. So I don't think nothing changed as far as what we do or how we prepare. I just think you just got to be locked in and focused.
In terms of staying positive, how much does it help that you guys still have a lot to play for? And as a guy who knows how difficult it is to get to the playoffs and win there, do you have to remind the young guys at all that you do have a real opportunity that doesn't come around every year?
I think you just take it 1 week at a time. Don't get too overwhelmed, putting scenarios and things like that in your head. Continue to focus on improving and doing that by the way you work and, being the leader of this team. And I think guys, see that from the leaders on this team and, how we want to play and what we need to do to win the game.
Some of the guys have said, like, as that gap between you and Jacksonville has closed, the sense of urgency has increased for you. Would that be the case? Like, has your sense of urgency increased?
I said that on Sunday at the game that we needed urgency, and I think that's, pretty obvious for everybody in the locker room what we need to do and, how we got to come out this week.
Social media can be a pretty unmerciful place. Do you talk to the offensive line, Dennis, about, they're under fire all the time. Tell them to tune that out or...
About social media?
Yeah, fans have been pretty tough on them.
I'm not really caught up in social media. It's not really something that I'm looking at or put into what I got going on, so I don't really know. I don't pay attention to it.
From a pass pro perspective, do you feel like you've made, improvement to where you can be more involved in that third down package, from a pass protection standpoint?
I'm just taking advantage of my opportunities when I get them and trying to do whatever I can to be available, in the passing game and get the most out of plays whenever I get opportunity.
Last question. Is there anything that you want to talk about we weren't smart enough to ask you?
Say it again?
Anything you want to talk about that we weren't smart enough to ask you?
No, I'm good.
I'm sorry, what? How did that press conference just end? Anything you want to talk about that we weren't smart enough to ask you? Who was that? Did you recognize that
I couldn't
voice?
make it out. I couldn't even. I'm sorry, how did you even hear that?
Because he had to ask it because Derek goes, I'm sorry, what? What the hell was that?
I couldn't even make out what the reporter was saying. So I have no idea who that was.
I don't know who that was. I'm gonna have to send some text. I'm confused as to what you did. You didn't come prepared with anything, so you're just gonna throw up a Hail Mary and be like, "Hey, bud, you want to talk about anything else when you're clearly in a terrible mood?" No, that's not clear that Derek's in a terrible mood. He just doesn't. That's why I wanted to crowdsource it for people to decide whether we should carry Derek's press conference. Because I feel like most people don't understand that that's what Derek's press conferences sound like. Like that's very much common as opposed to the alternative. Like at least Mike will go at you every once in a while. Derek's just, kind of mumbling through it at this point. Because people are saying that he sounds sick or downtrodden. No, it's just kind of the situation for Derek. Have you listened to that clip yet? The way that the Bucs reporters are going after him in the locker room?
Yeah, it was going around a good bit.
What did you make of the interaction there? Because on the one hand, Giovanni Bernard has to answer the questions about the muff punt that helped spur the comeback.
So it was a botched fake punt. It was a fake punt by the Bucs. So I didn't see the play.
Okay.
So I didn't see where Giovanni was responsible. But
he was involved with the play.
That
was really the only responsibility that at least watching it, that I felt like he bore.
A fake punt that went wrong. He was obviously a big part of the play, and he essentially got chased down by a bunch of Bucs reporters. looking for answers about what happened, and he wanted to go home to his family, and he said, you guys haven't talked to me all year, and they're, you haven't done anything to talk to us all year.
Okay, let's play that audio, because I think that that team, I honestly think, has a similar vibe to what the Titans are dealing with right now. Now, obviously, the Bucs have Tom Brady; they have won a Super Bowl. Like, it's a little different, especially when they are this down bad, 2 games under 500. Well, I guess you can't be 500 in the NFL anymore at the end of the year, but still. You're looking at a situation where they're going through their own struggles. They're still leading their division, and both of these teams feel kind of ick. This is what Giovanni Bernard. This was the interaction with reporters in the locker room after the fact.
Gee, I'll talk to you this week.
Well, you were injured all year.
What have you done for us to talk to you about all year? I talked to you Tuesday. Don't say you're not talking because I didn't talk to you all year.
You were also injured most of the season too.
Just relax. Can I go to my family that I have outside? And
You
all
can.
of a sudden now?
Just don't say we didn't talk to you all year.
We just wanted to ask for your perspective on what happened
You're
there.
involved in one of the biggest plays of the game.
Okay.
Thank you, Jude.
I appreciate
That's
your
all.
time. We do.
We won't hold you.
We would have talked to you in the season, but also you were injured.
Just tell us what occurred on the play.
Miscommunication, that's all it was on my part. I take complete fault for that.
Was it a fake?
I don't know. It was complete fault. My fault. That's it.
Is this something the team hasn't practiced
It's
this
all
week?
me. All me. That's something I did wrong, and that's all.
So you
It
weren't
was all
aware?
on me. Yep, number 25 out there, that was me. I was the one that did it.
But were you aware
It
that
was
it
just
a
me.
fake?
Yeah, I messed up.
I understand that, but I'm just asking if you knew it was.
I
We
messed
just
up.
didn't know if it was a communication
Yeah, I
breakdown.
messed up.
Thanks, Jude.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Testy.
Because Jael says Titans media would never. I applaud Bucs media for asking the tough questions. Yeah, but I didn't get any answers out of that. Like what? Not that I'm saying there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. The answer is somewhere in between. Like, you can ask difficult questions and not have the approach be like, if I'm a reporter and I say to that dude, what have you done all year for us to talk to you?
Yeah.
Like, bleep you, dude.
Well, I think that was a very poor way to say, you've been on IR all year. We can't talk to you. Because Gio said something like, oh, now you want to talk to me after he made a mistake. It was just a poor way of phrasing it. I'm just not a fan of the aggressive chasing down in the like. I think the moment he says, like, no, I'm going to go home to my family, you say, okay. You know what I mean? Like, we're not investigating, like, a political scandal here.
If we did that to Derek would never say a word ever.
Yeah.
And Derek already isn't a talker. Like, I think you got to read the room on both sides of things.
Like, the moment they make it clear they don't want to talk, they just want to go home, then at that point, it's like, okay.
Well, no, I disagree with that. Because, like, I'll be honest, Dennis Daly, he's tough to get in the locker room. That dude has to answer some questions. Like, it can't. Terrence Mitchell, after the Raiders game, you know who's the first one at it? I don't even think he showered. He didn't even take the time to wash the eye black off his face after Mac Hollins took him for a roller coaster ride. My guy was gone. So, yeah, if you have the opportunity to talk to those guys when they're directly involved with a lot of the impactful plays that are making, good or bad, they should have to answer the questions. But to turn it into this, this damn food fight between media and players and media and coaches like this, like, I don't understand why it has to be such a fraught and contentious relationship. That sucks.
Should they answer questions if they are a big part of the game or why things went wrong? Sure. But if they decide not to, then that's it. They've decided not to. Like, that's their decision. So I'm just not a fan of chasing down Gio in the locker room. Like, we're not investigating Watergate here. It's football. He made a mistake on a botched fake punt. Like, okay.
Your position is the position that many, many more people will take. Whereas I'm looking at this like, don't you guys want answers about what went wrong? No, it's kind of like the Amy Adams Strunk thing, right? Like, I would like to hear the owner answer more questions. And most people are happy with the statement.
Yeah, well, and you know what? That's fair because she's the decision maker. And there's a lot of thought that went into that decision to fire John Robinson. So I think it was fair to be waiting for her to say something, which she eventually did with Teresa. But, like, Dennis, if I'm a Titans fan, I don't need to hear from Dennis Daly. What answers do you want from Dennis Daly?
Do you think you're doing a good enough job at left tackle to keep your job?
Oh, come on, man. Like, so what?
What's wrong with that question?
So he can say, no, I don't deserve to be here? Like, We know who Dennis Daly is.
I want an honest human response from him. I don't know what I'm going to get. I just know he needs to be asked. You disagree with that?
Yes, because we're not investigating Watergate here. He's a football player who's not good enough to be the starting left tackle of the Titans.
This isn't Watergate. There is not the societal importance of an investigation into a president who was seemingly corrupt. Like, I'm not out here holding January 6th committee meetings. I just want to know why he's giving up more pressures than any left tackle in football, and if he thinks that's good enough to keep his job, and that he thinks he needs to be coddled by starting the first quarter and then being pulled for Dylan Radins. Just do it.
I feel like the questions are better directed elsewhere here on how the Titans approach this, how they're going to fix the left tackle issue. The issue is what it is. I just don't understand. We need answers from Dennis Daly. Why are you missing blocks? I don't get that.
It's not why are you missing blocks. It's you're changing the question. The question is, do you think you deserve to keep your job this way? And do you think you need to be treated like a child when they said, okay, just so you don't think you're going to get pulled if you do something. Do you have the quote from Mike Vrabel? We can pull this up about this left tackle rotation. This thing that they had planned. It's in the DMs on our group, Lucas, if you wouldn't mind pulling that up from yesterday from Sunday, the press conferences. Because I do think those are legitimate questions to be asked. Again, I'm not investigating corrupt politicians. I'm out here covering football, and that's one of the most important questions on the football team. Why can't you do your job? Do you think you deserve to keep your job? And are you okay with the coach handling you with kid gloves, basically saying, yeah, just so you don't think we're going to pull you if you do something wrong, you're going to play the first quarter. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I think matters. I feel like people do care about that. Yeah, does media take it too far? Of course. Like, I'm not saying, like, how Bucks media handled that, I thought was poor. Because even if you were going to get an honest answer out of them, if you approach it like that, you've ruined it. Like, it has to be a civil conversation. And I'm not saying that I'm going to walk up to Dennis Daly screaming, but I'm going to say, hey, man, like, given the circumstance, you know what's going on as well as all of us do. Do you think that you should continue to be the left tackle for this team? I think that's a fair question.
But I don't know what a fair answer would be.
No, I don't either, but I need him to answer it. I'm not saying there's a fair answer. Whatever. You answer the question. But be available to be asked. This was Mike Vrabel talking about the left tackle rotation after the game on Sunday night.
We got to put everything into another week, eliminate some of the mistakes, execute better. When we play complementary, our offense answered back. Defense did a nice job in sudden change things that showed up last week. Roger's play at the end of half. Roger had an interception at the end of half last week that turned into a touchdown, that turned into a double-up situation. Game got away from us this week. Roger made a fantastic play. Took some momentum in there to halftime, but then mistakes, but we hung around and just came up short.
Were you surprised that your quarterback was available again after getting carted off? And did you think he was somewhat limited?
Oh, I've told you about Ryan's toughness and what I think about that. He can't get it hit as many times as he does or how he gets hit. We've talked about that. Nothing good happens in this league, especially when your quarterback gets hit. But I'm never going to question his toughness or his willingness to go in there to try to help the team.
Mike, how did you think Dennis responded from starting the game to getting pulled for Dylan and then needing to go back in, obviously, because of injury?
We talked about it was a rotation that he was going to play through the first quarter, and then Dylan was going to go in there, and then we were going to make a decision. So that was something that we had come up with during the week, and it was planned out. I didn't want Dennis or Dylan to think that, if they made a mistake that they were going to get pulled. It was play the first quarter, play the second quarter, and then, we'll decide from there.
That's Mike Vrabel talking about the planned tackle rotation. And while I am cognizant of what he's trying to accomplish there, like, he doesn't want them to play scared or overthink what their circumstance is, right? He wants to give them a defined situation and be like, right, wrong, or indifferent, you're going to play this first quarter, and then we're going to make the change. So you can get, I guess he's just trying to get them to go out there and play as freely as humanly possible. But I also do think that it's okay to ask him, well, do you think they are so fragile that they need to be handled that way? I'm not in the position to make those decisions. I don't know what it is to manage people. Like, I don't even manage people around here. I get managed, basically. Lucas and Robert are very much tasked with managing me. So I don't know what it is to be responsible for that many individuals the way that Mike Vrabel is, and how you need to handle those workplace dynamics. I won't speak ignorantly on that. But I do think that in that kind of an environment, if it's already, for lack of a better term, kill or be killed, then shouldn't they be cognizant of mistakes causing them to be pulled sooner than the first quarter? Like, if it goes so poorly, should they be allowed to ride it out that way? I don't know. The coaching staff clearly doesn't think so. Hell, it took them long enough to even consider this. So we'll see what happens with Dylan Radins this week as well, because obviously, they planned to do something, and that was very quickly derailed by the fact that Dylan Radins got his own knee injury and didn't return. Donnie is up next. Hey, Donnie.
I kind of understand your point, but there's a part of it that I'm not getting, that you have to know the answer, and the way the question is answered. Are you doing well enough to keep your job? I'll turn it around and say, if the rating slipped at your station and there was someone that was removed from their slot, but yet you're still on the radio, can someone that is an avid listener of your show call in and say, we have to know, we need to know what caused the slipping in the ratings, and are you good enough to keep your job? That's kind of a tough way to go about it. I mean, I don't think I would want to be asked, are you working good enough to keep your job? That seems like a very odd question that's not really going to get anywhere, because how can he answer that question in the beginning?
Well, Donnie, it's a good point. Now, I like to think that I would be comfortable fielding a question like that, but we do work in a little bit of a different industry, right? It's not like you go out there, and I'm not sure what you do for a living, Donnie, but it's not like you go out there, you do your 9 to 5, if that's how you operate, and somebody's there at the end of the day to ask you about all the things you did right, wrong, because they were sitting over your shoulder watching the whole time, right? Oh, he's gone. Yeah, it's a different world. It is. And like Lucas said, it's not like lives are not lost because Dennis Daly can't play right tackle or left tackle. But, the quarterback's ankle situation is very much directly affected by the amount of pressure that he's under. So not quite fatal situations, but not great either. Last call for phone calls. We'll do some polls. We'll get to the rest of you on the lines. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Wrapping up on this Tuesday. Tomorrow we got the dumbest thing in sports this week. We'll see who the player is going to be. I haven't gotten an update just yet, but there will be a Titans player around. Their situation this week is interesting. It's a noon game, right? So we'll be in and out of there fairly quickly on Christmas Eve. Not the worst thing in the world, but I'd be curious to see how many people. I know I've said that a couple of times since we've been back, since we've been done with this Chargers game. But I'm very curious to see what attendance looks like on Christmas Eve. I know a lot of y'all are passionate about it, and that it's a big divisional game, and that you want to see your team do well. Maybe you take your family out there. Maybe it's a Christmas present for some of you. It's going to be cold, so make sure you wear something warm. Hell, I think we're doing pregame here as opposed to the stage outside, the way that we normally do. So make sure you're layered if you're heading to Nissan Stadium on Saturday. Last call for phone calls. We've been talking about the interactions between, for example, Titans media and Derrick Henry, and what you heard earlier with Gio Bernard and the Buccaneers media contingent, and what is, I guess, the proper way to handle these things. Not like crowdsourcing it, but just kind of trying to see why it's become so difficult to get legitimate answers out of these dudes about stuff. Steve in Bellevue next. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Buck. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure, buddy.
There's a two-part question. Why do you guys think it's necessary? First and foremost, I understand what you're saying. It's your job. It's Koharski's job. It's Wyatt's job.
Mm-hmm.
But just bear with me. You go in there with some common sense next time, and you're going to win a lot of points. You know why he's playing Daly one quarter. You know why he's playing Raines another. Do you really need the answer that that's what we're going to do the rest of the game? No, you don't. You go in there and phrase it the opposite way. Buck, bam, Mike's asking you all kinds of questions. So don't feel like y'all need to know the answer. Just think about it. It's right in front of your face. Just have to think.
Well, yeah, but that defeats the purpose of being there to do the interviews, right? Don't you think, Steve?
But you don't see my point. You don't see my point.
No, I don't think so.
You'll be thought of more intelligently when you go in there and go, well, what, are we handling these guys so fragilely? No, they know the answer. They're professional about it.
Sure. No, Steve, I'm not saying that that's the way that I would go in and ask the question. I'm just saying, yeah, I think that I have pretty good tone when I approach the way that I answer questions. I'm not going in there guns blazing, you know what I'm saying? But I guess I'm making the point a little more stringently on the radio about why those questions do need to be answered.
Do they really need to be answered is what I'm asking you. The answer is no. They both know why they're being played a quarter, then they'll decide later.
Well, I disagree about that, but I do appreciate the call, Steve, and that's okay. It's okay to disagree about those things. And here's the thing. At the end of the day, it's about what you guys want to hear about. Now, if Steve's not interested in the answer to that question, I'm not going to convince Steve that it's important. I think some people would like the answer to that question, and that's the feedback that I most often get. I'm not there. I don't ask these questions because I care. I mean, it's my job to care, but my job is to care about the things that you guys want questions answered for, the analysis that you guys want, or to get relevant people to talk about the things that you guys care about.
My argument is Dennis Daly ain't going to give you the answer to that question.
No, but it's not about the answer. It's about him being available to be asked. That is my issue there.
So you cannot get an answer?
I want the opportunity to ask him the question. How he chooses to answer it is entirely of his own volition. That is beyond my control. Trey in Nashville is next. Hey, Trey. Hey, Trey.
Man.
What's up?
Oh, I woke up and you fired up today. Dude, you are exactly right. He should answer the question. And a couple other people need to be asked that question too. Todd Downing and Coach Vrabel. And I think you hit it on the head, man. And I would love to hear you ask a question like that. And you have a good day, buddy. Bye.
Thanks for the call, Trey.
Well, I think Todd Downing has fielded that question.
Todd Downing has many times fielded that question, as has Mike Vrabel. So, like I said, those guys are mandated, right? It's podium time. Like, Mike wouldn't be up there 3 days a week talking to us if he wasn't contractually obligated to do so. Anyway, we don't have to get bogged down with this. Polls.
I don't know who you are, but I know what it's time for. A poll update on the Buck Rising Show. Here's a young man with a very particular set of skills. With the final numbers, here's Buck Rising Show correspondent and producer, Lucas Panzica.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on all non-specialty new Fords. Who are the winners of the weekend? V-Love says Messi. Tyler says sports viewers for a legendary weekend.
Was a great weekend of sports consumption for everybody but Titans fans, it felt like. Every other game had some kind of exciting element to it, whether it was collapses, epic comebacks, championship clinching situations like with the World Cup and Messi further entrenching himself as one of the great. All right, so I'm not going to be able to answer this question because I don't have the background. Is Messi the greatest soccer player of all time? Is that even being discussed, or is it Pele? There's no questions. Move on, and this man lives in a different stratosphere than everybody else.
Don't make me do this.
Why?
Don't make me do the comparing eras GOAT thing.
Why?
Because I don't want to.
It's the best version. It's the only way that you're going to get sports or other sports people in on soccer is if you do those kind of conversations.
It's
the whole formula.
Is Messi probably the greatest soccer player of all time? Yes. Does Pele have 2 more World Cups than he does? Yes.
Hot take.
Who are the losers
I gotcha.
of the weekend? Titans for life says the Colts for the absolute meltdown on Saturday. Tyler says Jacoby Myers and Mac Jones. V-Love says anyone who didn't watch the World Cup final, and Salt Bay.
Salt Bay was mine.
Who gives the Titans the best chance to beat the Texans Saturday? An injured Ryan Tannehill or a healthy Malik Willis? 57% say it's an injured Tannehill.
How injured is Tannehill? And if it's functional, then I would take Tannehill over Willis at this point. But if you're going to try it against anybody again, you might as well try it against the team that you've already beat once that way.
And who ends up getting the 1 seed in the AFC? Chiefs or Bills? 51% say Chiefs.
Bills are currently holding serve at this point, so we'll see what happens with all that. But I do think that the Chiefs have the ability to kind of make some progress with that, even if the Bills own that head-to-head. So we will continue the discussion tomorrow. Blaine and Mickey, obviously, they're coming up next. Dumbest thing in sports is what we will offer you. Keith Bullock is going to be here in for Blaine Bishop. Always enjoy hearing from the other KB, or I guess the main KB. The other guy's the other KB at this point in time. Anyway, enjoy that. Enjoy 3HL. After that, I'll talk to you tomorrow at 10.